It's July 27th, 2026. Footage right here is a cargo ship burning in the middle of the Caspian Sea. 800 miles from the nearest Ukrainian soldier in a body of water where Ukraine has no navy, no ports, and you would think no business being able to reach anything there. But yet they are. And the reason that this ship is on fire is at 11 separate times on the run into Iranian ports. Someone aboard reached over and switched off the transponder, HM. I wonder what they were trying to hide. Basically trying to create a little shadow fleet. The name of this ship is the Beggy. It's got a Russian flag. So supposedly, a Russian flag tanker sanctioned by the UK and Canada, according to Ukrainian military intelligence, she has been hauling something wild, something that Russia and Iran never wanted any of us to know. They've been hauling ammunition, artillery shells, body armor, shaped drone components. And here's the big kicker here. It's not going from Russia to Iran. It's going from Iran to Russia, out of Iran, into Russia. Iran is not the customer here. Iran is the arms dealer. And here's what Tran said. As we know, the rhetoric might have been a little bit spicy at times. Yeah, we never saw that coming. Foreign Minister Abbas Agorasi announced that this attack cannot go unanswered. He's like, you blew up my illegal Shadow Fleet vessel. That's the only way that I can make money right now because of the naval blockade. So, I'm a good mafia boss. So this can't go unanswered. That's basically what his statement says. If you read between the lines, the Foreign Ministry of Iran calls it a hostile and criminal act. Meanwhile, they're smuggling arms into Russia. They took it to the UN Security Council. I mean, they're basically like taking it to the teacher. They're like, see, we're doing everything correct. Meanwhile, they've been cheating on every test. And the teacher's like, all right, I guess I got to deal with this. And I don't know, they seem very confident about themselves. So it actually makes you think, wait, am I the crazy one? No, we're not the crazy ones. Iran's operating a shadow fleet and they're supplying Russia with shaped drones, missile launchers, and basically things that Russia has been lobbing at Ukraine and lobbing at Kiev non-stop. But 11 port calls with the transponder switched off might not be great for their case HM. Yeah. They're in court and they're like, yeah, see here, you actually switched your transponder off 11 times to try to hide yourself. And they're like, oh, it was just a birthday surprise for the item. We were just coming in to give him a birthday cake. It was a surprise party and we didn't want to ruin the surprise. But in this case, the surprise party was dozens of shake drones instead of a few candles. I'm on burgundy.drone, designed in October of 2022 for the specific purpose of answering Iranian shades. Ready to go up against those Shaheeds, now reaching 1,400 to 2,000 kilometers or so, and a synthetic aperture radar satellite that the Ukrainian people crowdfunded in 3 days. 500 kilometers up in the sky, pumping information to that drone. This is just a wild situation. I mean, the forethought of the Ukrainian people to get that satellite up there with that synthetic aperture radar, so they could determine what was on. This cargo vessel is just next level. Are going to get into how this whole mission went down and what Iran's panicking about. Full panic mode. They're losing yet another funding source, which is wild, and then stay for the global roundup section, because we've got some hard things to cover. 2 of the smallest air forces in the Middle East are doing something huge to Iran. And I built that into the global roundup section about 3/4 of the way through the video. But I want to rewind to the night of July 25th. Long-range drone operators from Ukraine's security service ran a strike package into the Caspian and put warheads into 4 targets. And wow, there are some Seekers behind me. These bugs that are extremely loud. So hopefully you guys can't hear it. But in case you can, we're out here in nature. We're enjoying it. There was a literal bighorn sheep about 10 feet away from me just yesterday. So yeah, we're out in the Wild Kingdom today filming this video here in Nevada. But basically, Ukraine's security service ran a strike package into the Caspian and they put warheads onto 4 different targets on the 25TH, the Felanovsky offshore oil platform operated by Loy, the cargo ship Borolaya, the dry cargo ship Beggy, and a Project 12,480 Malina-class missile boat. A Russian fast attack craft was taken down. President Zelensky of Ukraine confirmed it publicly. The security service named the holes on Telegram and framed the operation as the lawful answer to Russian strikes on Ukraine's southern ports because Moscow has spent months trying to choke Ukrainian shipping in the Black Sea. That's been one of their main objectives. And Ukraine just proved it can do the exact same thing in a sea Russia thought was a private lake to them. They basically thought it was Vladimir Putin's private lake where he's just riding his horse along the shoreline, taking wonderful photos. I mean, the photos are pretty wild. And they're kind of cool, if we're being honest. But Trans-Summon, Ukraine's charged day affairs, called the strike a hostile and criminal act, said one sailor, didn't survive and they took it to the Security Council. Then Monday morning, Ukraine's acting foreign minister Adri Sabe answered in public, Iran's threats are groundless. The regime in Tran is a direct accomplice to Russian aggression and Iran has no standing to pretend to be a victim. And the victim mindset is terrible. So I love the fact when you call out these regimes that are evil, regimes murdering thousands of their own people. And they're like, you hit my ship. That really hurt us really bad and we're really mad. We're taking this to the teacher. And then Ukraine's like, yeah, you guys are part of a shadow fleet operating like gangsters with Moscow. So yeah, just don't be a victim. I think that's a perfect statement from Ukraine. But how do you find a ship that keeps going dark in the middle of an inland sea? Two ways. And both of them are the future of warfare. So I'm so glad that you're tuned in for this section. You start with a pipeline because Ukraine published the whole thing. This map right here showing the route where it goes to a port in Iran and then it goes up through the Caspian, across Russia and then strikes into Kiev. Iranian-made attack drones leave Tran, specifically go north to the port of Abarat on the Caspian coast. Actually looks really beautiful on the imagery. Could you imagine if there was actually people in charge of Iran that weren't gangsters, that weren't extorting their own people? There could be an economy here. It would just be amazing. They crossed the water to Mykolaiv in Dagas, and then they moved by air and road to Russian airfields. Sakasha in Bransk region and Araki and Krasnodar Krai. Pretty sure I got close on those names. Those are not warehouses. Those are launch bases inside of Russia where they launch into Ukraine. This is where the shade that come down on Kev apartments take off from. Ukraine's main intelligence. The Rector operates a dedicated synthetic aperture radar satellite built by the Finnish company ICE. ICE and how they got it is one of the coolest stories in this war. In June of 2022, Ukrainians as a people crowdfunded over $13 million in 3 days to buy 3Buyer, TB2S. The Turkish manufacturer heard about it and donated the drones for free, so the foundation then took that money and bought a spy satellite instead. Synthetic aperture radar does not care about clouds, weather, or darkness. It fires radar energy at the surface from 500, came up and rebuilds the image from what comes back down to a 4 meter per pixel and owning it outright instead of renting constellations. It means about 6 times faster data retrieval. And now that cicada is kind of calming down behind me. So anyway, you might not be able to hear it at all. I just think it's kind of funny. It's trying to disrupt us. What is that? An IRG cicada? Igicada, that's what we're going to call that thing. Those bugs are really loud, by the way. But that one satellite has delivered more than 5,900 radar images to Ukraine itself, giving them the ability to then target in these TB2 drones and these other advanced drones, which we're going to get to here in a second. And then the second hero platform is not necessarily a platform at all. It's patience. Ukraine's military intelligence runs a public portal called War and Sanctions with detailed files on 66 vessels across the Russian, Iranian, and Venezuelan shadow fleet. The method is sort of unglamorous and it's completely lethal. So even if it's unglamorous, when you're that lethal, you're still the big swing. And you know what? It logs every gap in a ship's transponder feed. Where the signal drops, where it comes back, it traces ownership through the shell companies and flags of convenience. Then tasks the radar satellite to photograph the empty water in the middle of the gap. When a vessel has vanished from the tracking system and the radar image shows a hole sitting right there. In the dark, then boom, got it. Judge, jury, executioner. This is how the Veggie ended up with 11 documented calls of turning their transponder off at Amarabad, Nawashir, Ara, and Anz. Everyone with the transponder switched off on approach into the ports with It's almost like you're trying to hide something. But Ukraine snuck in and is not allowing that to happen. Which brings us to what actually flew after the satellite, after the day. This advanced technology all coming together, now being pumped into a kinetic force platform. The most likely airframe here is the A1-196 Litz. IUTE. I'll get these Ukrainian words eventually. Don't worry. The word means fierce. That's the most important part. It was built by Ukro-Bronram. Pretty sure I got that one close. With the Antonov Design Bureau. And the irony is basically thick enough to cut with a knife. Because design work started in October of 2022 as a direct answer to the Shade 136 campaign, where there were parts on that actual ship that was blown up from Iran going to Russia. But the Ukrainian drone is a piston-driven pusher prop similar to the Shade, but this one in Ukraine has inertial navigation with satellite correction, complex, pre-programmed routing, a warhead of 50 to 75 kilograms. It's a huge warhead, and the long-range variant that likely did this strike deletes the landing gear entirely. It basically knows it's not coming home, and it's on a kamikaze mission. So why haul the weight of the landing gear? Its reach has grown from 0 kilometers to between 1,400 and 2,000, close to 0 miles, with a confirmed Ukrainian record around 1,750 kilometers. It is flown by the 14th Regiment of Unmanned Aerial Systems, who's just absolutely doing work in Ukraine. The Caspian Sea, though. Is this roughly a 000 kilometro? Let's say roughly 500 miles or so from Ukrainian launch areas. Which means those drones did something wild. They crossed the widths of southern Russia, and on previous Caspian missions. They did it without a single interception because Russian air defenses are stretched across more critical sites than it can physically cover, especially in that southern region. So you don't have to beat the whole system, you just have to find the seam. Thread the needle, get the drones across, into the Caspian to shut down this illicit source of funding for Iran and illicit source of weapons for Russia. But now, let's talk about the adversary force and the details behind what Iran is doing. Because one detail that nobody has resolved, and you deserve to hear it, is that both vessels Ukraine named are recorded as Russian flagged and Russian, but Tran describes the casualty ship as an Iranian merchant vessel with an Iranian crew. And neither government has released any names, a flag, or a number, a tracking number for the ship. So either Iran just claimed a Russian hull as its own in a formal diplomatic protest, which tells you how fused these two militaries really are. Iran and Russia, or there is a third ship that nobody's talking about, but probably the former. Iran obviously isn't weak. They're trying to extort the world. And they're the best at extortion, negotiation, complaining to the UN about this illicit shipment being blown up. I mean, that really does take some cojones to gaslight on that level. I mean, I think even our craziest exes are sitting there and they're like, wow, yeah, you guys really need therapy. Iran? Greater than I hate you, you're so adorable. Look at your face. Look at your face. Jugo. I woke you greater than. But remember, Iran still has a lot of capability and they need money. They need supplies to keep operating the way they have. With their ballistic missile launchers. They want to be able to continue to hide those in the different drone storage facilities. Ballistic missile bunkers. That's something that is incredibly important to Iran to do. But they need resources in order to do it. And they've got to be able to pay off the IRGC. They've got to be able to pay the mob bosses. So now, with the actual blockade itself crushing the different sources of income, flowing to the mullahs, the generals in the south losing $500 million a day, this was a nice little sweet spot for them. This was their little honeypot up north that's being absolutely decimated. It's being completely crushed. But that brings us to the global roundup section. So, welcome to this. This is when we talk about some different things going on. But in this case, it happens to include Iran. Wall Street Journal actually reported that Bahrain and Kuwait secretly sent fighter jets into Iranian airspace earlier this month to hit drone and missile storage depots, their first known direct offensive operations against Tehran itself, with the UAE providing targeting intelligence, defensive air cover. So understand what that takes. And this is historic. Bahrain flies a small F-16 force. Kuwait flies Hornets and Super Hornets. Neither of them necessarily has meaningful organic tanking where they can refuel themselves, standoff jamming, or the depth to roll back an air defense belt alone. So likely they were getting some support, but the UAE was the big one. Supporting this with different imageries with the different supports from some satellites up above, taking a note from Ukraine when it comes to the satellite. So it looks like at this point there is a coalition forming against Iran, and will this turn into some sort of ground operation? Well, I think the fact that the air operations are getting some of the partner nations to pitch in. If there was to be some sort of a ground operation, I really feel like it's got to be the Persian Gulf. It's got to be a coalition of members of the Persian Gulf Israeli military. Something besides US boots on the ground. Maybe with S forces just doing some advising, and that brings us to the 40 chess strategic analysis section. So this is a wild one. This one is pretty insane. But here's what nobody's putting together. These aren't two wars sharing a news cycle. It's one adversary architecture. And this weekend, it basically got mapped and put in front of the world in public. So follow the freight, just like you follow the money. Iranian drone components go north across the Caspian to Russian launch bases. Russian satellites, according to Zelensky, come back south. Imaging for gold. Air bases inside. Russia's area of interest on July 19th and the 20th alone, and those Russian satellites photographed. Prince Sultan Air Base 3 separate times before the Iranian attack in March that injured American service members. And then a quick update on the pause. The tactical pause that's happening right now in strikes. Admiral Brad Cooper, the CENTCOM commander, recommended stopping the campaign around the Strait of Hormuz because it had reached its limit of effectiveness. This was reported by Axios, and reportedly said the next step would be resuming major combat operations to finish the remaining 20% of target sets. So it looks like the US military isn't out of weapons, just out of targets that made sense for those weapons in the Strait of Hormuz. And then President Trump has also denied any munition shortages, and then he named Karg Island recently, which is not a military target at all. This is a terminal that moves overwhelming majority of Iranian crude. So, could this be next on the target list if things kick back off? So, what do you guys think? What do you think of this Russian-Iranian shadow fleet switching off their transponders and doing what they do? I'm sure they're just delivering some beautiful wild berries products from Russia. We saw that wild berries factory get blown up. Yeah, maybe they're just creating a new logistics chain for wild berries. That's the Amazon of Russia. Yeah. I'm sure it's not shaped drone parts as Iran makes their complaint to the UN, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Where do you think the strikes go? Do you think we see new strikes starting up to eliminate the remaining 20% of the targets? If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest documentaries. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.